When we talk about architecture, I think the first thing that comes to mind for most of us is, well, it's the cold, hard facts, right?
Absolutely. Structural integrity, building codes, sheer scale.
Concrete and steel. It's all very technical, very precise. But sometimes the actual person seems to get a little lost in all of that precision.
It's true. And institutional design is especially at risk of becoming purely functional. It can reduce human beings to just efficient traffic flow.
Like we're just moving through these sophisticated containers.
Exactly. We forget that these buildings are the stages where daily life actually happens.
Well, today we're diving deep into the work of an architect who just refuses to accept that trade-off.
We're looking at Kana Hasmukh Patel.
She's the principal architect and interior designer at HCP Interior Design. And she's someone who designs with, as the source puts it, both precision and empathy. So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack the source material. It's a fascinating profile from Built by Her, to understand how she has, well, fundamentally humanized design in India.
And the whole profile really hinges on her core philosophy. It's this belief that every space has a soul.
Every space has a soul. I love that.
And maybe more importantly, that architecture must serve life, not the other way around.
That feels like a huge paradigm shift, especially when you think about the scale of the projects her firm handles.
It is. So what we're going to explore is this blend she's achieved, this combination of technical mastery and a really deep sense of human context.
We want to know how this philosophy moves from, a nice idea on a drawing board.
And actually manifests in some of India's most significant, high-profile civic buildings.
So how does empathy become a load-bearing wall? That's really the question, isn't it?
Exactly. And to get there, I think we have to start with her legacy. Because this is a story about intention.
You really can't separate Kana Patel from her roots. The source says she was born into a lineage of visionaries.
Right. Her father was the late Padma Bhushan architect Hasmukh C. Patel.
So you're talking about someone who grew up just steeped in these conversations about design, philosophy, form, and function.
That background sets an incredibly high standard, but the source makes it very clear that her path wasn't just, one of inheritance.
No, it was one of intention.
Right. Her father was a master of the structural envelope, the outer shell of the building, but she made a very specific choice to focus on interior architecture and design.
And that distinction is huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interior architecture versus pure architecture.
It's a massive difference in focus. She's less concerned with how the building sits on the land and much more focused on the immediate, tangible human experience inside the walls.
She chose the human scale.
That's it, exactly. Her whole career is about translating these vast structural ideas into an immediate sensory reality, how people live, move, and feel inside those structures.
It's the difference between designing a beautiful silhouette for a skyline and curating the actual emotional and physical choreography of the people inside.
And that commitment, over time, evolved her approach beyond just aesthetics. It became a whole philosophy.
The source calls it a quiet dialogue between tradition and modernity, efficiency and emotion.
I love that phrase, quiet dialogue, because it's not shouting at you. The space supports you without demanding all of your attention.
So it's a synthesis.
It is.
Yeah.
Technical efficiency, the space has to work flawlessly, but also emotional grounding. The space has to make you feel centered or dignified or collaborative, depending on what it's for.
And that intentional blending of efficiency and emotion, that seems to be what allowed her firm, HCP Interior Design, to move so seamlessly from, deeply personal spaces like private homes.
All the way to these massive institutional projects that really shape national life.
And this is where we really need to spend some time, because the scale of her impact is, I think it's going to be surprising to a lot of you.
Oh, absolutely. For many, this will be the real aha moment of this deep dive.
Okay, so let's get into it. We're talking about her leading or contributing to the interior design for some of the most visible and significant architecture in modern India. The source material specifically highlights her involvement in projects like the interiors for the new Parliament building.
Just think about that for a second. The nation's new legislative home. You're literally designing the environment where governance and debate and consensus
The
happens.
stakes couldn't be higher.
And it doesn't stop there. She's also overseen the vice president's enclave.
And numerous other major civic and institutional spaces across Ahmedabad and New Delhi. It's a huge portfolio.
It is.
So this brings up a critical question for me. When you're faced with a project of that magnitude, let's take the Parliament building, which is constrained by, government procurement, budget realities, national security.
All of that.
How does that philosophical idea of empathy even survive?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't the rigid reality of bureaucracy just crush the soul of the space?
That is the core tension, right? And the qualitative difference in her work isn't that she magically gets rid of all those constraints. Nobody can.
Right.
It's that she defines her success criteria differently. For most institutional architecture, success is measured by, say, function and security. Full stop.
Get people in, get people out, make sure it's secure.
Exactly. For Kanna Patel, success is also measured by human well-being and psychological support.
So how do you translate well-being into physical reality in a high-pressure building like the Vice President's Enclave?
Well, you can look at something like materiality, the choice of materials. If the goal is gravitas and respect, which is appropriate for Parliament, she uses that Indian sensibility the source mentions.
Okay, so what does that look like?
It looks like using indigenous stones, specialized carvings, textures that anchor the space to a national heritage. That's the tradition part of the dialogue.
And that material choice then lends a certain emotional weight to the experience.
It does. It's essentially using the materials to tell a story of continuity, of permanence, which psychologically conveys trust and stability to everyone working there.
That makes sense.
But then let's say you're in a civic meeting room where the goals shift. It's not just about gravitas, it's about dialogue and collaboration.
Right.
Standard institutional design might give you massive desks in a straight line, which just reinforces hierarchy. Her empathetic approach would challenge that.
How so?
By focusing on natural light, by optimizing the scale of the furniture so conversations feel intimate but still dignified, by arranging seating to subtly encourage face-to-face interaction instead of, rigid positional authority.
So when she says design is about how a space breathes, she's talking about the flow of light and air and the ease with which people can actually interact.
Yes, she's making that high-stress environment feel less draining. She's designing for human resilience.
Because if you are leading a nation, you are spending incredibly long hours in these spaces.
And her work ensures that the design itself supports clarity of thought. It reduces visual noise. It maximizes a sense of grounded stability. That is how empathy survives government constraints.
By making human performance and well-being the highest functional priority.
You've got it. The design isn't there to intimidate you or just manage your movement.
It's there to inspire leadership and facilitate healthy human exchange.
And that profound difference in objective is, of course, reflected in her aesthetic. The source describes it as an Indian sensibility modernized with global relevance.
Which I imagine is a very difficult balance to strike. How do you honor this deep, ancient architectural history without creating something that just looks, well, historical or decorative?
She gets there by valuing what the source calls materials, light, texture, and culture. She makes sure the design tells a story of continuity, not imitation.
So her firm doesn't just copy old forms.
Not at all. They use traditional craftsmanship and indigenous materials, but in minimalist, clean, functional ways.
And the resulting spaces are described as having a timeless aesthetic, elegant, functional, and deeply human.
Which means these buildings probably won't fall victim to transient trends. Their roots are functional and cultural, not just stylistic.
So that naturally makes me wonder, how does she ensure that this really high bar of human-centered design is maintained within her own studio, within her team?
And that's the perfect pivot, because the source material makes a specific point of highlighting her leadership style.
Defined by a commitment to collaboration and mentorship.
Right. It suggests that the dialogue she designs into her buildings is the same dialogue she fosters among her own staff.
Which has a fascinating societal implication, doesn't it?
It really does. The architectural and design field, globally, but also in India, has historically been very male-dominated.
Heavily. So her success, leading these landmark national projects,
She quietly but powerfully challenges stereotypes.
she is living proof that a high degree of technical strength and leadership is perfectly compatible with sensitivity and a human focus.
It's not a trade-off. She's proving that women can lead landmark projects not just with strength, but with sensitivity.
And this mentorship model is so critical for the future.
It's everything. By prioritizing collaboration, by training junior architects in this human-centered methodology, she's not just signing off on blueprints.
No, she's actively shaping the ethics and the entire approach of the next generation of designers in India.
She's showing them that focusing on the feeling of a space is a legitimate, powerful, professional tool. It's not some soft skill.
So if we connect all these threads, From her intentional career choice to her philosophy to her execution on these grand national stages, what her firm is doing is ensuring that design becomes a narrative.
Yes, a narrative that honors India's architectural roots while embracing a future where civic spaces define national identity.
And inspire the best version of human endeavor.
In her hands, design becomes a tool for cultural reflection and societal aspiration. She is building spaces that reinforce the very values of belonging, of dignity, that she believes the nation should embody.
And that really is the unique contribution of Kanna Patel. It's his rare ability to see the person within the vastness of the space.
To successfully humanize design in an age of concrete and code.
Her legacy is about building not just robust structures, but these profound stories of strength, vision, and belonging.
Which I think should provoke a thought in all of us, whether we ever commission a building or not.
Go on.
If, as she asserts, architecture must fundamentally serve life, what practical, measurable questions about human well-being should every designer be forced to answer before they even put pen to paper?
Questions that go way beyond efficiency or budget or aesthetic trends.
Way beyond. It forces us to demand more from the environments we inhabit every day.
So it's a final thought for all of you listening.
We'd encourage you to just observe. Observe the intentional and the unintentional emotional elements in the spaces you frequent.
The next time you walk into a major public building, a library, a courthouse, an office,
think about that quiet dialogue it's having with you. How does the lighting influence your mood? How does the texture of the wall make you feel about the institution? And what specific decisions do you think created that feeling?
some food for thought. Until our next deep dive.